90 minutes recorded live, uninterrupted. The Pleasecast, episode 7, February 24, 2018. And I am your host, the Christian Internet Reporting, with a co-hosting this evening by a hashtag Leon the Jokester.
Yes, sir, I am here. Glad to be here.
You are glad to be here. I'm glad too. And how are you, Leon the Jokester?
I'm super duper blessed, man. Had a really good day. You know, did the church thing, did the family thing. So yeah, man, we're just ready to kick off the hashtag Pleasecast show tonight with my boy.
Great. Yes, hashtag Pleasecast. And you, how was your show the other night? I saw, I caught the video that you put up, that you guys put up of the show that you did at the, where was that? The last one you did.
At the Shrine.
At the Shrine, right, yes. Very funny. I don't know if, I'm not sure if, I really liked a lot of the stuff you were saying, and I want to listen to a couple of jokes from that a little bit later, but I want to tell you that it was very funny.
Well, thank you, bro.
Yeah,
it was an interesting night.
It sure was. It was, I think, most interesting. I thought it was very funny, and I think the audience was very interested. It was a most different night of comedy. Very funny.
Yes, and it was my first time freestyling. I always wondered how that felt to freestyle on stage instead of just having like a set. Like I had my original new material worth of stuff for the set, but I took advantage of, since the weather was bad and we didn't really have a huge audience. It basically was like 8 to 10 people that night. So basically, I just took advantage of saying I'm a freestyle, and so just whatever came to my head, I wanted to do it just to be able to say I did it. I don't think I ever would have the guts to do that with a big crowd. I'll just have to stick with the set.
Well, there's a lot of material there, and you might take a look at that and build a nice little forest out of that kind of little seedling you got there, if you call it freestyling, because I thought all of that had been material that had been established, and you were kind of loosely moving around the edges of your outline. I didn't know that you were. I know you said you were freestyling, but I'm sure that a lot of that material was already in your head. Because I don't know, but I did kind of want to talk about this later. It's very funny, and I want to kind of get into this a little later. And I know for a fact this was hilarious because I laughed out loud. About anybody else, I don't know, but I thought it was funny. And it's a good point, though, because it doesn't work that way. You said, never thought of it like that. Because blind people don't get into heaven. Yeah. And also, too, white people don't get in there either. Yeah. Nor Jews, nor Greeks, nor male, nor female. It's just kind of weird like that. But I always thought it was funny because you can say, you know what I love about heaven is there won't be any disabled people up there or any white people. Yeah. No Norwegians anymore. No. So, but the thing yeah.
Well, I also have like this one joke. I haven't used it on stage yet, but because of my vision impairment, I was like, I wanted to say the joke that I made like a few months ago. That man, like people ask me all the time, Leon, since you're blind, when you die, how would you know if you went to heaven or hell? And then I'll just be like, well, I'll just see when I get there, because that's just the reality. Like I wouldn't know, but you make a vital point, man. I'm not going to be partially blind when I get to heaven, so it's all good.
True. And also, because I heard you say that, but I realized too when you said it, there's a whole lot there's a whole lot of people that aren't going to be up there, and it's true because in the Bible it talk about heaven. There's nothing up there about any grass being up in heaven, so I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any Mexicans up there. I'm sure of it. According to most Christians. Now, according to most Christians you talk to, because they will tell you that they only like certain people doing their grass. You got to be legal. So, hey, listen, speaking of legal, we'll get back to that in a little bit. I wanted to talk to this next person, and this, as long as I've known this person, I don't know, there's something very legal about this person. I don't know what it is. But every time I think of this person, I see this person, I always think, this person reminds me of someone that is very, very, very legal. And usually I don't feel the need to really watch out for him. He's that legal. But here he is, and now listen to this. Did you know this guy, he's been around a while, and he's had, I think he's like one of these guys that has probably, if you look back long enough, he probably did an Ivory soap commercial somewhere back in his career. And I mean, maybe on the other side of the camera, not the side that's getting shot at. But he's got an interesting history, and here he is. Listen to this. Hashtag, I'm going to go ahead and add this part to it. Comedian Alex Pages. That would be you.
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. Did you bring me? Are you here with me?
I thought I was getting some kind of introduction here.
Yeah, I am talking to you, by the way.
No, that Ivory soap thing is actually a webcam show, me taking a bath, but, but I tell you, I'm trying to do clean comedy, you gotta clean up your act.
Hey, I'm right. And you use a lot of bubbles?
No, we were poor when I was growing up. We couldn't afford Mr. Bubble, so we just used Palmolive.
Hey, we used mud. I used mud. Yeah.
Well, that's good. See, you were advanced. You knew the what do they call that? God, I can't see. My brain is gone. Exfoliating properties of mud. See that? Jeez.
So this is what I meant. Now you listen, you see, there's something about that he's like the human version of the optical illusion. And you think you're listening to something, but really you're listening to something else. He's very animated on stage. I have seen you perform, Alex Pages. I've seen you perform maybe 5 times, and got to perform on the same stage with you maybe twice. But it's always a pleasure to watch you perform and be in the same room with you, and sometimes just hang out as a friend. And I've always appreciated that when I first got into comedy around 2000, maybe 12-ish, 13-ish, that Alex Pages, for some reason, he was one of the first people I met, and I'm very glad I did meet you first as one of my first friends in comedy, because he's one of the good guys. So, Leon, I'd like to introduce you to Alex Pages. And, Alex, I'd like to introduce you to Leon the Jokester from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And at some point in the interview, though, I want to hear about this world-famous former MTA thing that you were telling me about, Alex, where you had the situation on the intersection when you were the MTA driver?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about that at some point, but in the meantime, you might want to bring that up later, Leon, because it's a fun story.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead and Leon, let's go ahead and do about 3 minutes, and then we'll run to a break.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So my boy Alex Pages is in the building, man. How you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing good. No, I'm lying to you, man. Right now, I'm not doing too good.
You're not doing too good?
Yeah, I just shut off the TV. I was watching the news, CNN, and it's just too much comedy going on in the White House. But I don't want to talk about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's too sad, man. That's sad news. So,
Hey, we got good news here.
It's all good, man. I'm normally the type that I get pretty mad at the White House the first 30 days of the month, but when my check comes on the 31st, man, it's all good. I'll put my Trump shirt back on. I need my check. Need my disability check. But Alex,
hey,
man,
like
I like when when we start the show, we always like to backtrack, kind of like Michael J. Fox. Let's go like Back to the Future. What was Alex Pages doing prior to comedy? Everyone doesn't just say they were born like Richard Pryor into comedy. So let's go back down memory lane, and you're just gonna share with us, just for your home, your family now. So take your time and just explain what was Alex Pages doing to work his way up. Talk about the grind to get to the point you're at now with comedy.
I was the youngest of 6, and so I would get blamed a lot for things breaking and such. And so you always had to be a real good actor and fast on your feet. And I think I was trying to get the attention from everybody, so I would always act funny and stuff. And up around the age of 15, I used to. My big hero was Bruce Lee, so I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. So I learned Chinese. No, I borrowed my dad's 8mm camera. I used to film my own karate movies, which I thought was kind of strange. But I could actually convince 10, 15 people to show up in some spot, and I'd have a little tiny camera. All right, we're going to make a karate movie, and everybody's all gung-ho to do it. And I managed to drive some guy's car onto a baseball diamond and do a few donuts. And I think I was 14 years old at the time. So it's been kind of like that, just kind of off weird stuff like that. And my friends would always say, you should be a comedian, you're so funny and stuff. And I'm like, I'm afraid I don't want to go up there. What if they laugh at me?
And that was the whole point. So how was that first experience, man? Talk about that.
Well, I killed 4 years going to comedy shows and talking to comedians, thinking I can do this. And I took a couple of acting classes. I'm an artist, by the way. I paint, I draw. I got a degree in illustration. But while I was doing that, I also took acting classes, and it wasn't until I got into like Second City Improv. I took a summer class, and they kind of cured me of my stage fright. And then I took a stand-up comedy class, which basically unlocked my mind to how I can kind of put some stories together, things that, And all growing up, I also used to love Rich Little. So I used to want to do like all these impressions and stuff. And so when after that stand-up comedy class, they said, okay, we're going to put you guys on. We're going to give you, we had like 200 people in the audience, and they said, we're going to give you, you could either do 5 to 10 minutes, wherever you're comfortable. It was like about 14 people going up. They called it a graduation performance. So I went up there, and I had such a good time that at 17 minutes, they were giving me the line, come on, you're up there too long. No. I did 17 minutes my first time on stage, and
Wow.
yeah, that was pretty, I just couldn't stop. Just one of my weird impressions at the time was I did Fernando Valenzuela. The baseball, the Dodger, the pitcher. I put on a little hat on and a little jacket, and I start talking like Fernando. I go, yeah, you may remember me. I was a pitcher for the Dodgers. That is why I carried the American Express card. It's the only other green card I don't leave home without. Where's my letter?
Alex Pages, ladies and gentlemen. I think we need to go to a break on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was fantastic. Hey, I know also now where they're going to send that, what is the, speaking of that, what is the mascot, the logo that they're retiring in a couple of years? That was was it the Chiefs or the Indians, or what was that?
The Kansas City Chiefs?
Was it the Chiefs? And they're going to retire the mascot head, that logo, right?
The Chiefs, or was it the Indians?
Yeah, I think
the Redskins.
Oh, it was the Redskins.
The Redskins.
Yeah, the Redskins.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because we could still say Redskins and not get in trouble for it. It's not the Redskins is not the N word yet.
It's the R word.
Yeah, it's the R word, but not the N word. But we can still say that R word. You know what? Somebody told me the other day that. Well, that's another subject. But we're going to take a break real quick. Speaking of how to extricate myself from this situation I've gotten myself into, we're going to be back in a moment. But first, I want to say that we have our very special guest host this evening, Alex Pages.
Hello.
Hello. How are you this evening, Alex?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Doing great.
And we're hoping we're going to be able to hear from, you know what, I like Jack Nicholson to show up tonight.
Well, I'm a pretty good friend of his. I might be able to have him drop by.
Yeah, I was just looking at some stuff. He was pretty good in The Shining. I want to hear about that. And then also we have our co-host, our special friend. He's our very special friend. He's one of these special guys. He's looking for more special people. In fact, I heard that he's looking for multiple special people to do very special things with at the same time. And here he is, very special Leon the Jokester.
That's right, straight from the White House.
Straight from the White House. We're tracking that down. And then we'll be back after this with special guest host Alex Pages on the Please Cast. Hang on. And we are back with the Please Cast, and that's a hashtag, Please Cast. Yeah, hashtag Please Cast. And if you didn't know, that is to say, if you didn't know, I will tell you. And if you did know, I will tell you again. Hashtag the Please Cast is the following thing, literally. Performing, learning, educating, advancing, serving, entertaining. And then, now watch this, and then, along with the Please Cast team, we are then performing, learning, educating, advancing, serving, entertaining, to engage and motivate. And friends, dear friends, may I add, that is what the Please Cast is. And that's our job tonight, is to do all of that. Because we're performers. And if we're performing, we might as well be performing something good. And speaking of performers, here he is here. Look at this. Our co-host tonight, Leon the Jokester.
Yes, straight from the White House.
Yes.
Also cold.
Yeah, you're looking for, I know you're working overtime out there looking for the birth certificate for Joel Osteen. It's got to be there somewhere.
It's somewhere, man. I'm going in the basement.
Right, going in the basement. Must have been in one of those edited memos, possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's see. I'll keep my eyes open.
Yeah, keep your eyes open. Right, or half open. Yeah. And then, hey, speaking of our eyes half open, eyes half shut, eyes wide shut, this guy, I don't know. He is a hashtag, because I don't know if he knew this or not, but did you know that we are hashtagging just about every single thing on this show tonight, because this is a Christian show. And as you know, we Christians love our hashtag marks. Or meant to say, our Christian hashtag marks. So here he is, Christian hashtag mark, comedian Alex Pages.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Thank you, please. Thank you. Hey, man, you were talking earlier about the Mexicans, man. I don't know what you meant by that. That the Mexicans aren't going to be here anymore. What was that? What did you mean by that, man?
Yeah, I think we got...
I don't know what you... Well, we're going to have no Mexicans because we have no grass.
Well, that's true. It's either that or... I mean, there's only so many pillows, right? I mean, how many pillows can I sleep with? I gotta have some. But I tell people all the time when I say, because I'm not talking about your gardener, but I might be. And they say, because I know
actually,
I'm talking about Jesus. And they say, no, I'm not talking about your gardener, but I might be. 'Cause you never
Actually,
know.
I have a gardener, and I am Latino.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, really? I go, yeah, I'm a Latino, and I have allergies.
Hey, you're in the wrong
So
business.
I'd go out and I could do this. I had my lawnmower. I'd go out there, and then I'd walk in. I'm like, I can't breathe anymore. I think I'm having an asthma attack. And I'd have to break out the inhaler.
Yeah.
I look like a sad Darth Vader with water coming out of my eyes after I would cut the lawn, and so we had to get the gardener, and that's very enjoyable once a week.
Wow. That's it. May I say, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but that is one of the saddest stories I've ever heard of Latino culture. Very sorry, very sad to hear that. Because you know what? Because I got bad allergies too. That's a ding on us, isn't it? Yes, it would be. Because me, if I got allergies and you got allergies, then that means that somewhere in the world somebody is looking down on us because we're not able to do their lawns. But that's okay. I still do my own lawn. I do my own lawn. When I say that my gardener's name is Jesus, I just mean my former gardener. So, hey, listen, before we get too far off track, because I don't know how I got started talking about my former gardener. But
I don't know.
I want to, you know what it is? Because it's Alex Pages. And this is why I say every time I've ever done a show with Alex, it's kind of like being on a Johnny Carson roast, or Dean Martin roast. It's because so many people show up. You never know who you're going to see. But you do a lot with the current, contemporary, and then a lot of classically known celebrities and actors. Is that right?
Well, I have a hard time doing some more modern actors because actually they have no particular things that you could do as far as impersonate them.
Yeah,
I mean, like how do you do Matt Damon? Okay, here we go. How do you like those apples? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, folks.
Hey, that's good. That's great. I think Team America got that down. So why don't I?
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
You know what? What makes me laugh is sometimes I'll go to these little bar comedy shows, and I walk in, and there's the stage, and it's so dimly lit you could barely see the comic. And I'm like, I'm all for atmosphere and everything, but and it really should be to my benefit. How the hell is someone going to watch me do Robert De Niro's face in total darkness?
Yeah.
So I could just sit there with my face just straight on and go, yeah, I'm Robert De Niro, huh? Do you like that? Do I look just like him, don't I? Huh? What do you think? And I'm like, I don't even have to make the faces. I have to point a flashlight at my face,
Hey, that's nice that you could do. That would be like Robert De Niro doing in the year 2000 from Conan O'Brien. That's taking it back, though. So, hey, Leon, why don't you go ahead and take up the interview again, and I'm going to, because I need to do a little prep on our next segment. I do have a couple. Now, listen, I do have a couple of jokes I was going to workshop. I want you guys to help me workshop a couple of jokes later. But I will go ahead and have Leon go ahead and take this interview over, and then I will be back in about 2 or 3 minutes. And then let's see if we can go ahead and take a break in about 7 minutes.
Okay. And I'm going to ask 2 questions, Randy, and then I'm going to let you take it over. I just got to do one thing.
Oh, great. No, yeah, I'm here.
For my son. So just, I want to definitely ask out these 2 questions, and then I'm going to just, go in the please cast basement to get something for the show.
Right, okay.
And then,
got it. Yeah. Me and Alex will.
So Alex, how, with you being involved in stand-up comedy, why clean comedy? Why did you choose to go down that route?
actually started clean without knowing it. A lot of comedians would say, "Wow, that's you didn't even curse or anything." But eventually, over the years, I have allowed innuendo, and when you're talking mobsters, you can't help but start cursing a bit. But I try not to get too filthy. Sex-wise and stuff like that. That's just kind of a line I draw, sort of. So it depends.
And so, what was it that you would say you were able to develop the impression? Like, did you go to class for that, or did you just naturally have it? Because some people are just really good with it. Like Tommy Davidson was a pro at doing those impressions, and I see obviously you're very, very well equipped doing them as well. So how is that all natural? You have to take classes.
Oh no, you're around family and friends, or you're walking out of a movie, and you come out doing you're telling somebody's story. Yeah, really, I like that part where Bruce Lee says, "It's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Understand?" So I pride myself in being the only comic who does Bruce Lee's real voice, by the way. Thank you very much. But yeah, over the years, I would do different characters. I particularly enjoyed watching Star Trek because the incredible acting ability of William Shatner as the captain of Starship Enterprise. And all the crew. Captain, I can't fix that transporter. I can't get you Water 5. Dr. McCoy smoked all the lithium crystals. That was one of my first jokes that I came up with that time.
Oh, that's cool. So, I'm going to step into the hashtag.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey, well, I'll have Alex over here on the cone of silence, and then when you get back, just jump right in.
Okay.
So, Alex, let's talk a little bit about, this is kind of what I was feeling when I heard that William Shatner, just now, I like doing voices myself, but there's a difference in just doing an impression, because Rich Little used to do impressions, but you add a little. I grew up watching Rich Little also, because he used to do those the Dean Martin roasts. But I remember the difference between Rich Little, let's say, and let's say what you're doing. The way I'm thinking of it as an adult now is that you're adding an element of silliness to it that I don't remember Rich Little was necessarily a silly performer in his impersonations, or rather his impressions. And I like the way that you kind of add the silliness of it. It's almost this is why I said you're almost like the magic gag box performer to me.
Well, you know what it is that when I go on stage, I usually tell the comics, the host of the show, yeah, just bring me up as a comedian. Don't say anything about me doing impressions. And my friends wanted to know why that was, and I said, look, if you bring me up as an impressionist, they're going to be listening to all my impressions and criticizing them, and that don't sound like him, or that does sound like him, or whatever, and then probably now you're going to focus on the humor behind it. I go up and I do the characters doing something or saying something funny or in different situations. But when I do my normal regular material and then I work an impression into it, people are more amazed at, oh wow, did you see that? He did an impression. It's like you bring them in and little treats to throw through the set.
Yeah, it's like getting a little.
And it really works when you in certain instances, like for instance, when I first started out, I would end my set by transforming into Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it had the whole, the 2001 Odyssey music and all that, and I'd put my jacket on and turn around, and everybody expected me to sing an Elvis song, and then I'd burst out into some Too Legit to Quit, and start dancing around and moonwalking and stuff. And,
I like that version. I love that version. It's like a snake in a can. You open the lid and the snakes pop out. So, how about this one? You do a voice. So I think we're probably similar in that. I'm guessing that you said from the time that you were a kid, you were quick on your feet and quick-witted. And how did you feel about when you first started doing your first impression? What was it? Who was it? And why?
That had to be Richard Nixon. I was 8 years old, and my brother wanted to draw me doing my impression of Richard Nixon. And of course, years before Dan Aykroyd did, I put my hands out in two peace signs and puffed up my cheeks and says, I am not a crook. Or, I would do that. Or The Godfather. I think The Godfather is one of my...
Well, the reason I do Marlon Brando, a lot of people don't know that Marlon Brando has kind of a voice like this, and they always hear him with cotton in his mouth, but when he's Don Corleone, I happen to look just like Marlon Brando, especially now that my hairline has gone from Elvis Presley to Nicolas Cage, so so that's where. But no, I do like to recreate in certain scenes. Yeah, I like. There's a scene in The Godfather that every time I've seen the movie a bazillion times, and every time this part comes up, it almost brings tears to my eyes, and it almost does it when I do the impression, and that's when he's in the morgue, and they pull the cover off of Sonny Corleone, and he's like, I want you to use all your powers and all your skills. I don't want his mother to see him like this. And then he makes that face, He's like, look at how they massacred my boy. Did you hear the teardrop right now on the microphone? No, you didn't hear it.
I was watching the movie in my head. I was looking at Marlon Brando. So when you do a voice, and this is about technique, when you do a voice, because I remember when I was a kid, the first person that I did an impression of, and I don't think it was only an impression, it was an imitation, because I was fully physical too, and that was my preacher when I was a kid, our pastor. And at my church, and I was raised in the Assembly of God Pentecostal, so that was we'd have these like kind of spirit-filled type Holy Ghost meetings on Sunday night and Wednesday nights. But the preacher had this certain movement and flair, and with his arms and his voice would go up and down as he talked, and I would set up my animals and preach to them. And I remember doing this. And so my earliest impression or impersonation or imitation was me acting like the preacher. And then I guess when I'm looking at your comedy, then I'm seeing a lot of these celebrities. How do you look for people to do impressions of? Is it something that strikes you as funny, or something that strikes you as that you can do an impression of?
I think one of the things that has me kind of helps me choose what impression I want to do is my ability to find something that I can mix in with the character, but it has to be halfway decent. It has to be halfway decent. Oh, by the way, I am the only stand-up comic / impressionist who cannot do Bill Cosby. Yeah, I
cannot do Bill Cosby. I've tried, and I've had a close friend tell me, "Oh my God, that's the worst Bill Cosby I ever heard." And so then I'm always doing my really bad Bill Cosby. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah. Let's go.
Wait a second. Let me get in proper position. Okay, I'm all seated and seatbelts on. Go ahead.
What you do? You take the pill and you put it in the drink. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think, you know what I think they're going to do? I think that you should be expecting any day, Alex Pages should be expecting a giant head, a horse head in his bed some of these mornings. I think that's what's going to happen. It's coming from the Cleveland Indians baseball organization. I'll bet you anything.
Well, I was nice. I actually told you the impression that I cannot do. I also like to go singing a lot, and I like to apply my skill to, like, if I go sing the Beatles, when I'll sing the Beatles, I'll do the Beatles voices. You know, John Lennon always talked like this, and of course, Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney always talks like he's asking a question. You know, no, Ringo, you just gotta, kind of do that. But when I do sing, I try to sound like the people, and it helps too because you come up with song parodies. You know, I got a bit that I do. It's a takeoff on Folsom Prison Blues, where when I sing it at karaoke, a vato comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, how come you guys never do anything for us guys from Chino Prison?" So I told him, "Yeah, I'll be back next week and we can do come up with a song for you." So I came back and I do Chino Prison Blues.
Oh, how nice. How accommodating.
You guys know Chino Prison is right by a bunch of cows.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, I don't know if you want to.
There's a lot of material
hear.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, let me hear.
Do you want to hear a phrase of it?
Yeah, let me hear it.
So I have to do it as Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Johnny Cash. I hear those cows are coming. They're moving round the bend. I've been smelling cow shit since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Chino Prison. I smell I'm gagging on. But those cows, they keep a-pooing all day and all night long. Thank you very much. And then I do all the other, it goes on for a bit, but people usually get a big kick out of it. I would love to do that song in Chino Prison. See if I could start a riot. I thought that would be kind of cool.
You know what? I could see that working. And by the way, we just catch, hey, our co-host, Leon Jokester just came back. Welcome back. But we're going to go, I'm going to hop down off this little stepladder I'm on for a second, and then I'm going to pass it back on over to the break session, and then we're going to come back. But I want to say that I can see this. Now, here's an idea. So Elvis Presley shows up to sing Chino Prison Blues as Johnny Cash. I like that.
You know, that actually happened. Johnny Cash was performing on some TV national show, and he's obviously blitzed. He's had a little bit too much to drink, and he breaks into this whole bit where he starts combing his hair into a pompadour. He starts moving his lip. He starts shaking his hips, and then starts moving his hips, and they go, oh, and then his hips are going around in circles, and they're doing the drums like dun 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 dun, and then they grab him so he doesn't fall over. And basically, he was doing his impression of Elvis Presley. Back at the time when they were out at the same time, and
right.
So then he starts trying to sing Hound Dog, and then they stop him. It's pretty funny. Look it up, Elvis Cash.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to move towards our break, our break here. But I want to say, again, we have our good friend, hashtag Leon the Jokester with us as co-host.
Yeah.
and welcome back.
Yes,
We want to hear about.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to get some of that comedy going as we go out on the break. But I wanted to say, well done on this new material that you worked on. I know you said freestyle, but it was very well delivered.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I listened to it and I said, it's probably some of the best comedy that I've heard recently, given what most people would consider to be palatable comedy. It's like, oh, you will see this as comedy, but guess what? There's another option, and this is not on Comedy Central. This is what I saw the other night in your comedy. So well done, good job. And then I'm going to go ahead and see. This is this one went up. I need to get it because we had. Oh yeah, here it is. We're going to go out on this one here. But I wanted to say also we have our special guest, and thank you though for taking the time to talk to us about that. And also for being on the Pleasecast tonight, hashtag the Pleasecast tonight, Leon the Jokester, because I know that you're working also with your tour manager to do stuff on your show tonight while you're doing our show tonight. So thank you.
No problem.
And but here we have special guest host, and this guy, because he never travels alone. He's always got at least two other people with him, one of which is usually almost always either a Mexican or a Latino, depending on which side of which zip code or wall you're on. And then also, I have heard every now and then he shows up as this person, hashtag Alex Pages.
Oh, what are you talking about, baby? What are you talking about, huh? I don't know what you're saying, baby. Okay.
Tony Montana, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Hey, what?
Tony Montana. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know what? One thing they never did with Tony Montana is you never saw Tony Montana on any Fruit Loops cereal boxes.
They should have done.
No.
Should have had him do a commercial for CNH Sugar Man. You know?
Yeah, you could do that, but that I've never quite understood that. How you could have you can't have Tony Montana on the box cover of Fruit Loops, but you can have Darth Vader on the box cover of Fruit Loops. I don't get that. I never understood that.
Did they do that?
Yeah, I mean Darth Vader's selling. These kids are eating gummy bears. So Darth Vader gummies, right? But the same thing. Stone Cold Killers, man. Okay, so here we're going now to take a break. We've got to come right back. This is only transition to a break. And in the meantime, we're going to listen to a little Leon the Jokester. And what we're doing here is, this is on YouTube, Leon the Jokester at Punchlines Comedy Showcase Volume 4. And so we're just going to drop right in the middle of this and see how it goes. We'll be back after this. Hang tight on the Pleasecast. Leon the Jokester.
Hey, is there somebody walking that? Okay, my eyes are improving. Thanks, Doc. That's cool. Okay. So what should I talk about? Hey, I won't be up here very long. Reason being, I promised my probation officer I'll be back home by 10 p.m. Yeah, my wife, she's my PO. Yeah.
And we are back. And you are we. And then we are back with the Pleasecast. Hashtag the Pleasecast with co-host Leon the Jokester.
Yes, sir. We're in the building.
We are. And just reminding everyone again, hey, by the way, everyone is welcome in this building. I just want to make that clear. We did know that, right? I did say it. Everyone is welcome. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, you're in the building. If you're hearing this, you're in the building and welcome. And also, this building is not a building that's made out of anything that you could physically see or touch. So Leon's okay. No stairwells he's going to get locked in or trapped in or fall down.
Yeah.
But this building is quite very literally in our imagination, and it is the building that we shall call real, based on, hey, how many? It's 3 of us here tonight, so let's all make believe this is real. And when we act like what we imagine is real, then that thing is real. And so tonight it's our job to act like Jesus is real, and I'm not talking about your gardener, but I might be. And so this is how Jesus is real, is when we act like Jesus is real. And so now, speaking of Jesus and actors and people that act like certain things are real, and we were just mentioning over the break how this person is very unusual in that he is a performer, in fact a very talented performer, a comedian, several years in the business, if you will. Also, want to hear a little bit about his former, possibly I'll hear how he will express it, but I know that he has done some other types of work in the professional entertainment industry through photography, I believe. And I want to hear about more of that. And then also, we need to hear about the adventures of this person as he was a driver for MTA some years ago. And so here he is, and he is one of the finest people you'll meet, and he's not a hang onto it until you die kind of guy. He's a here, let me share with you kind of guy. And his name is hashtag Alex Pages.
Yeah,
Did I miss anything?
I have been noticing that your speech pattern seems to follow along the lines of William Shatner. I gotta tell you a story that happened to me this morning. I was at McDonald's. I was ordering breakfast. The girl behind the counter says to me, she trying to charge me for the orange juice. I told her, what do you think I am? Do I look stupid to you? I watch CNN. I know. I saw it. I know that OJ is free now. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here all week.
Randy, let
Yeah,
Alex Page
I
talk.
think UPS is at the door. I think UPS is at the door. They're calling for Alex Pages.
I'm sorry. I had to throw that joke in there.
Hey, have you ever seen the
OJ.
movie The Fan? Speaking of Robert De Niro, have you ever seen the movie The Fan?
Westwood Judge?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah. That's a good one. But he has a whole thing in there, because I was thinking you could get some real crazy stuff going there with all that fan stuff with Fernando Valenzuela. But hey, I cut you off. What were you saying, Leon? Go ahead.
No, I was just, it sounded like 2 Randys. I got lost for a second. I was like, I thought Randy gave it to Alex, and then it still sounded like, I was like, wait a minute. So you guys stop playing games. I actually have 2 requests for impressions, because like Alex has me on this whole impression deal. I want to hear Jack Nicholson, and I want to hear Sylvester Stallone.
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that, because being a comedian, a lot of times we don't make the kind of money that people think we do. And I was a big Laker fan a few years back when they were really kicking ass. But I could never afford to go to the Staples Center and watch a game. But I got lucky. I have a friend, he got a job as a custodian at the Staples Center. So what he used to do is he would unlock the back door, and I would sneak in and find a seat and watch a game. But on certain nights, I would get lucky, and I got to sit in the front row. So what I do is I put my freaking glasses on, and everybody would think I was Jack, and I'd sit in the front row and watch and start yelling at Kobe. pass me the ball. Well, that's my Jack. And it's more of a visual if you actually see me, but I got to meet him once, actually at a celebrity golf tournament, and it was funny because he has a whole bunch of cops watching him, and there was a big crowd of like 50 people, and me and my friend used to walk out onto the green, no, to the tee box and sit there and just kind of kick back. So he comes walking over and he's looking at us, and then he's looking down the fairway and he's like, what are these guys doing out here? And we dressed nice so we wouldn't look like, scumbags. And he comes walking up to us, and my friend goes, hey, Jack, how's the game going? And he's like, well, I'm carrying these guys, but I'm making shots when they count. So we talked a little bit, and I told him about how those guys are going around trying to get him to sign memorabilia. They send these teenagers out with a big duffel bag of memorabilia to get signed, and then they turn around and sell it for hundreds, if not thousands, on the internet. So when I told him that, Jack goes, and that's why I'm not signing any of that crap. So, but eventually, we caught him at the green. He made a 14-foot putt. Everyone's screaming, and then I yell out, hey, Jack, making them when they count, huh? And he's like, that's right. And then I go, how about that picture? And he goes, sure. So I hand the camera to the cop, and he goes, I don't know if I know how to use one of these. I go, well, if you could shoot a gun, you can shoot a picture. And Jack thought that was kind of funny, so it was kind of cool meeting him. And that's pretty good.
You do look like you. There's a strikingly similar when you do this Jack Nicholson impersonation. It's not just a voice impression. You do the whole thing where you turn your back to the audience and you'll turn around as different characters each time.
Well, I put the glasses on.
Uh-huh.
I have some orange sunglasses, and then I jack up my hair, and then I turn around, and it's pretty shocking, and people get a big giant kick out of it. And I usually do that as my closer. Do a couple of scenes from different movies, like You Can't Handle the Truth, or Wendy, I'm gonna bash your brains in, or but it's a lot of fun.
Have you ever thought about Alex creating a podcast for like the impressions? Because I've never heard. I mean, there's thousands, probably even millions of different types of podcasts out there, but like one just for your impressions, I think that would be exclusive.
Well, I've considered this for approximately 30 seconds since you mentioned it. James Earl Jones is one of my favorite voices to do. What I do in my act is I do, Luke, I am your father. Never underestimate the dark side of the Force. And together you and I could rule the universe as father and son. And by the way, this weekend you get 3 minutes on Verizon. He did that ad for Verizon.
I remember. I don't think that was the best choice of work for him to do.
And then he ended up on Sprint. I think he did. He ended up doing Sprint later.
They had a video. They had a really bad video commercial where they CGI'd his head onto somebody else's body, and he was doing some kind of a dance, and it looked so ridiculous, and it was clearly not his body, and they didn't want us to think it was. But when I looked at it, I said, "Come on, James Earl Jones, what are you doing? What are you doing here?" But I'm glad to see you've actually brought him back up in my estimation with that impression, because I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great actor. He's a fantastic actor.
I think him, Adam West, William Shatner, and Christopher Walken. I would love to hear them all in having a conversation. Yeah. I did tell you that a lot of nerds don't
some nerds know this, some nerds don't, but in Star Wars, I mean, my God, I was 16 years old when that first came out, and they're still doing Star Wars movies. So now I'm somewhere around 40 years older than 16. I'm not good with math. But anyway,
I took the same class you did.
yes, I found out that Christopher Walken was supposed to be Han Solo, and he was doing that movie, another movie, so he couldn't do it, and they gave it to Harrison Ford. But what I like to mess with is that, yeah, he tried out for the movie, but a lot of people don't know that he tried out for Darth Vader also. So this is Chris Walken as Darth Vader. Luke, I'm your dad. See, and I am your father. He says, I am your dad. You know, when you gotta explain to him. You know, I was thinking the other day, we kill the Emperor and we rule the universe as father and son. What do you say? Of course, Luke would get his hand cut off and go, no. Thank you. And scene. That's another one of those visuals, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah. That's the kind of crazy ideas I come up with, you know. Put them in a different situation.
How many impressions total, Alex, do you think you could do? Like, I mean, surely you have to, like, say, okay, I like these 10 actors, I'm going to do this, or do you feel like you could just freestyle anybody, like, when you, like, because I'm sure when at your show people ask you afterwards, hey, can you do this person, can you do that? Like, what do you normally do or say when that happens?
Well, you know, with this whole Trump era thing going on, I have request to do my quote Southern character, and for some strange reason, and I know a lot of you aren't even old enough to remember this character, but he was on a show called Green Acres. He used to sell things out of the trunk of his car. His name was Mr. Haney. So when people start asking me, I'll start talking like Mr. Haney. And a lot of people don't realize who he is, but God, he sure sounds funny. So I do a bit where he's knocking on the door he's rounding up Mexicans in the deportation force. He's like, are there any Latinos in the house? And the Latinos all took my special course, which I teach. It's called Speaking Spanish with an Italian Accent. No, aquí no hay mexicano, somos italiano. No, somos italiano, sí, ciudadano. Pendejo. See, so that's where that is. Thank you very much.
Hey, I would like to
very
hear.
Popular.
Hey, I would like to hear that same. This would be a fun a segment to do. Would be Bruce Lee reading those. I would like to hear Bruce Lee say that. So it would be speaking Spanish in an Italian accent, as read by Bruce Lee. So how would Bruce Lee? If you were Bruce Lee, how would you speak in an Italian accent?
You know, a lot of people, they ask me, how do you feel about this deportation? I don't feel it's very fair. So I taught a class to speak Spanish with Italian accent. So, habla español, no soy mexicano, soy italiano. Hey, I'm freestyling here, right?
I love that.
Okay.
Hey, you stayed on.
Hey,
That was nice.
Yeah, the other day I was at a 99-cent store, and I bought some, because I'm very forgetful. You know that, what's that called, that stuff? Ginkgo biloba?
Yeah,
For your memory? Yeah, I bought some of that. I
took it, and the next morning I woke up, and my face was drooping on one side, and my speech was slurred, and I called the doctor because I thought I was having a stroke, and the doctor said, did you do anything different? Did you take anything that recently that may have... I go, I told him I went to the store and I bought it. This jar of this stuff, and he goes, well, can you read the label for me? And it said Ginkgo biloba. Doctor, I don't know what happened. I took it, woke up this morning, and I was wrong here. I was having a stroke, you know what I mean? Ginkgo biloba. Thank you.
Hey,
thank you.
Good. You got a lot
thank you after every joke.
Yeah, and you have...
I'm sorry.
Right, and you have about 10 jokes per one. Oh.
I love the Balboa. Hey, I would like to know, does Sylvester Stallone talk like that in real life? Because I've only seen him in the movies. But in the movies, he always has that same voice. But, like, I've never, like, seen him outside of a movie. Like, does he really sound like that?
Yeah, when you look up interviews of him where he's talking about all the different movies he was making, I believe it was The Expendables. He basically talks the same way, but it's a little bit faster than to get a little carried away, you know. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I still get carried with the Rocky Balboa character. Even I love when he was telling the story in the movie. And this was an awesome movie. It was called First Blood.
Yes.
It was the first Rambo movie, and they didn't even call it Rambo. It's called First Blood. And in fact, Rambo was actually called First Blood Part 2. But I really love when he was talking at the end about his friend. We was in a bar, he said, we're going to fix up your shit, we're going to ride around, and then the kid goes, shine, and he put the box on his leg, and it exploded, and he's like, I can't find your leg, I can't find your leg, I don't know how I'm good at it, but I can't find your leg. And I'm like, damn. I gotta play that back. This is great. Yeah, that's why a lot of people, I think, underestimate him.
We have to take a break, but I wanted to acknowledge our two. We have our co-host in the group here with us, and that's Leon the Jokester.
That's right. I'm trying to get on the podcast with Alex Pages.
Yes. And we are also here with our special guest host, but only one time is he our very special guest host, because after tonight, he is no longer a special guest host, but we'll explain that to him in just a second. And here he is, only a special guest host for a little while longer, and then he won't be. Alex Pages, and you can hashtag it.
Mucho gusto haber conocido a todos ustedes y estoy muy happy to be here. I speak Spanish, but I didn't study it, so I got a D in Spanish in college.
¿Tiene una cabeza de indio en la mailbox? I think.
No. Si tiene una cabeza de un caballo en su cama.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the Redskins mascot head, though.
No, I was talking about the horse in the head of Mr. Volt.
I know. I was multitasking there. So we're gonna.
I'll tell you, Johnny Fontaine doesn't get that picture, and I know the whole story about. I ain't no band leader. All right, go ahead.
No, hey, I got to give way to you. I don't want to end up with a horse's head in my bed. So but we're going to go ahead and take a break. But I wanted to say first, before we went to the break, that you're only a special guest host one time on the Pleasecast, only once. And the reason for that is because after that, you are always a co-host. And so once a special guest host, and then after that, always you are a co-host because everyone on the Pleasecast is equal. And so now you are part of the Pleasecast team. And so, Mr. Alex Pages, our good friend, welcome to the team.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm very happy to accept this award and for my work. And I have no idea what voice this is. By the way, this is just something I came up with.
You know what I thought it was? I thought it was Fernando Valenzuela morphing into Sylvester Stallone for a second. I was kind of starting to get scared.
Yeah, sometimes actually, no matter what I try to do, it always goes back to Jack.
Yeah,
you know,
I
I
love
could start
that.
out with Sly. I could start, I could say, hey, Mick, I ain't heard no bell yet. I ain't heard any bell yet, Mick. I don't know why I'm talking like Jack, but I ain't heard no freaking bell yet. So anyway,
I'm hearing.
Get a little confused.
Yeah, you know what? I started to hear bells just a second ago. I can't make it stop anymore. Thank you.
Rocky's full
Thanks
after
for
the
that.
show.
So, no, I want to say before we go to the break, though, that Pat Buttram is the name of that actor that was on Green Acres. I had to look him up because this guy deserves a lot of respect. Pat Buttram. And then he was also, remember there was an episode of Twilight Zone that he was on where he played a guy that needed to learn how to relax, I think it was. And these aliens were coming to try to teach him a better life, and he refused them. And everybody ended up getting the benefit of whatever these aliens were bringing, and he didn't get it. And it was a really cool episode. So, okay, we're going to go to a break, and I wanted to acknowledge again our the staffing on our program this evening. Man, what a group we have! Leon the Jokester. Yes, and I also know we have here in the house, in the building, comedian Alex Pages.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to take a quick break on the Pleasecast, and we'll be right back. But as we go out, we're going to listen to a little bit more of this Leon the Jokester. And we're going to hear this for about, let's say about 30 seconds. But we'll be out on the other end of this, what will look like to you coming in through the front door. But really, just kind of think of this as a time warp. We'll see you in a minute. Hang tight.
Make good eye contact with the crowd. How am I doing, Billy? Oh, man. My boy Billy. Just recently, I lost my job. They let me go because I couldn't see Microsoft Excel. And it's okay. There's another job out there for me. But the lady was very harsh. She was very harsh. Always raising her voice at me. She's like, Leon, are you a hands-on worker or a visual worker? I was like, you mean visual learner? I was like, keep being sarcastic, Jamie Lee Curtis. Because she looked like Jamie Lee Curtis for no reason. And, but the engineers are not going to heaven, that's for sure. Now they're not going to heaven. You can't fire someone with a disability and think you're going to heaven. Doesn't work that way, Gilbert Grape. But I was thinking, you guys.
And we are back on the Pleasecast and with the Pleasecast. And we are here with our co-host, our very special friend, co-host, Leon the Jokester.
Yes, I'm feeling good tonight, man. Just hanging out.
Yeah.
Please, Cat.
You're feeling good. Dude, you're freestyling.
I love freestyling sometimes, man. Every now and then.
Yeah, it's good to freestyle every now and then. You have to put the book down and just pick up the instrument and play.
Yes. And see what comes.
See how it works. Sometimes it feels really good. You have a lot of fun. And what are you working on now? Are you? How's your book with the publisher coming along?
Oh, it's good, man. We're 3 chapters in, so we're looking forward to that. We have 2 comedy specials we're working on that drop in May. One of the first name we have the first name. It's Holier Than Thou, the Imperfect Comedy Special, and so that's going to be very interesting. Just throwing out just like similarities to the Gospel Randomness, just throwing out things that I want people that are Christians to talk about, but they're afraid to, and also to reach people outside of the church, wherever they're at in life. So when you bring both of them together, then it's going to be magical, man. I can't wait to drop it.
I can't wait to get online and watch it for free somewhere. I'm going to find it somewhere. I know you're looking to sell it, but I'm going to try to find it somewhere online. I will definitely buy it, but right now I'm waiting for the free copy.
He's waiting for the bootleg.
Yeah.
He's waiting for the bootleg.
Well,
huh?
because
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that. Yeah. Hey,
He's
thanks
waiting
a
for the
lot.
guy in the audience who has that little video camera and he's recording it.
Yeah.
And people are walking in front of him carrying popcorn, you know.
I know. I'm shooting
This
myself
would
in
be
the
the time
foot.
to do the Denzel Washington impression on training day. You want to go? You want to go home? You want to go to jail? You want to go home? Oh man.
Yeah, I love. Speaking of great actors, Denzel Washington's fantastic. Training Day, I finally saw it and was just. I loved it. It was a great movie.
Yeah, he's the man.
Man, Denzel Washington, something else. He is.
Hey, you know, in the movie, sorry to interrupt, in the movie, there's a main part where he goes, hey man, you know where you are? And then what's his name says, no. And he goes, man, you in the jungle. And he was talking about a certain part of South Central Los Angeles called the Jungle. A lot of gangs and stuff in that area. When he said that, I just like, oh my God. I remember that because I used to drive a bus through there, you know. Yeah. And that was the first time I ever saw a gangster get on my bus, fall asleep, and then wake up and realize he was in the jungle. He was in the wrong territory. I thought this guy, he looked like he was about to start crying, and I told him, you know what, just kind of lay down, lay back, don't let nobody see you, we'll get you out of here. Wow. But that's one of my stories, you know, of all the crazy things that have happened. You're talking about being freestyling. I recently started doing stories about driving the bus. It's a thing called Busted. A guy named Scott Schultz, he puts that on. It's been kind of getting pretty popular. And he really likes that I'm a bus driver, not a passenger. Usually people talk about, you know, riding the bus and their experiences. So I've been going and telling my stories to him. And so when you were discussing that, I know you said Christian a few times already. Thank you for letting me be here. Don't throw any holy water at me, please. I'm a believer.
On the show.
I'm a believer.
It's a Christian show, not a Catholic show.
Yeah. Well, I was raised Catholic, so yeah, my knees are pretty bad from standing and kneeling so much, you know, and during the service. And I'm starting to wonder what that stuff was when they were waving it around. I guess it's supposed to be some sort of sage or whatever it was. But anyway, I've had my own kind of religious experiences that you want to hear about. This it's a little story that happened to me when I was a bus.
Well, real quick, but real quick, this is our very special guest host, Alex Pages, and then now, yes, by all means, go ahead, sir.
Well, like I said, I tell these people these different stories, and then one particular story that I told, and when I tell it, I wonder if people think I'm crazy, and then other people don't, depending on how they what their faith level is. strong backslider, but yeah, I'm just trying to live my life. But anyway, I try to be good, and I try to do good. So what happened to me is I actually fractured my hand while driving the bus. I was trying to get out of my bus in a hurry to go to the restroom, and when I pushed the door that was supposed to be open, it slammed back in my hand and fractured my hand. And so they took me off duty, and they put me in the bowels of Los Angeles, the subway, the red line. So my job there, until I healed, was to walk around and help people get to where they were going, give them information. So people get off the train and go, yeah, you need to take that one if you want to catch a blue line, that one if you want to catch a green line, and you want so-and-so square, go that way. And I'd mess around with people, and you want to Staples Center, I'd start breaking out into my jack, and people would get a big kick out of that. But one day, officer told me, because they had a lot of police presence down there, that he had stopped a woman from jumping in front of a train. Someone had told him, hey, that lady's looking really suspicious, and I guess they walked over and escorted her away from the front of the platform. Well, this particular day, one of the guys that was supposed to walk with me, share the platform with me, was sick, and he didn't make it, so it was just me. So I'm walking the platform, and I see this kid whom I could only describe as a really young-looking Chris Rock in tattered clothing, And he was kind of goofing off, acting like he was getting ready to go do a swan dive, and he was aiming toward the edge of the platform, right next to the tunnel where the train would come out. And everybody's just kind of watching him, which is a big problem. People just stand around and watch and don't do anything. So I got a little bit closer. You can see I'm wearing my little vest, so I look like an official Walmart employee. And so I walk toward him, and I go, hey, sir, why don't you step away from that platform? I don't want you getting hurt. And as he saw me, he started edging closer to the platform, and as much as I tried to talk to him, he kept moving away and moving closer to the platform. That way he knew I would probably try to pull on him. He grabbed onto this little gate right next to the platform, and I could actually hear the train coming from the tunnel, and I could actually see the light of the train as it, was lighting up the end of the tunnel as it was about to come out of the tunnel, and that's what he wanted to do, is jump in front of it. So I just kind of reached out and told him, hey, you don't want to do that, and I grabbed him and lifted him up and pulled him away from the platform, and the train zoomed right by. And when I knew it was safe and the train had stopped, I let him go, and I said, hey man, what's the matter? You trying to scare an old guy, give me a heart attack? And he's like, no, I'm and he just looked me in the eyes and told me thank you. And then he goes, I'll be all right. I'm gonna be all right. And then he just kind of wandered off in a daze and actually hopped onto the train, which was heading up to Hollywood. And as I saw him, I've in the past I've always thought, people tell me, hey Alex, you ever almost had an accident or something? Have you ever almost got killed? And I'm like, yeah, but I think God's saving me for a reason. And I just kind of joke around. I probably got to save somebody's life somewhere, walk in front of the president or something. So being so sarcastic, I looked at my hand in my cast, and then I paused and I looked up in the air, or up roof of the platform of the subway, and I said to God, I go, is that why you broke my hand? And before I could even, react or anything, I got this really strong jolt ran right from my head to my toes. Call it a nuclear static shock. And at that moment I said, oh, whew, all right, asking. And I just continued walking. And I told my friend who was Christian, and he said, "Yeah, God answered you right there." And then other people would say, "You're just imagining things." But I know who it was, and I know what my message was that particular day. And I'm glad that I got a little bit of acknowledgement in that way. It's not something I was forced to do. It's just something I automatically do, try to help people. And I can't stand around and, watch and not do anything. So anyway, I told that story and they really liked it too.
That's a good story.
That's good, bro.
That reminds me of, because we were talking about, because I know, I don't know if Alex actually knew that this is a Christian show, and we're doing Christian comedy, but not every person on the show is going to necessarily be either a Christian or a Christian that either thinks the same way as every other person on the show or that comes from the same background. And this is the reason why we're hoping that this show will flourish in a new way of doing comedy, which brings people together from different backgrounds and puts them together in new and different and unique ways that have not yet been seen. And we believe that can be done. But I wanted to say that I wanted to say about my experience with the cat. I know I have to have at least one segment where I do this, but I got to take this over for a minute because I got to tell you this story that happened to me when I visited this Catholic church up the street from my house a couple of years ago. And it's remarkable in that it's one of these stories like you had, Alex, where you said afterwards, or you had a question and then it was an answered. It seemed to be an answer to prayer. And so, Leon knows this about me, and I don't know if Alex knows a little bit about this, but I have a background. My upbringing was right in being a Christian. And then for several years, then afterwards, I became an adult, essentially living in fear and realizing then that I was essentially an atheist, a closet atheist. So then I came out of the closet as an atheist, an honest Christian who was admitting that I was an atheist. And then for several years, I wandered in the wilderness of being an atheist and wondering what now? I've got all this being a Christian under my belt. What do I do with that now? Do I just throw it all away and I'm an atheist? You know what I mean? Do I try to be a good person? Do I try to follow the Ten Commandments? What is my new path now in the sense of, because, let's say 35 years of my life, I felt that the only, outside of a book, that said King James on the cover of it, I didn't have any purpose in life. And I didn't understand that the book that I was always told to follow wasn't a book that I should have been following, in my opinion. It is a book that is designed to provide information and stories, give us examples and things that have happened so that we can either do those same things or that so we can help other people have better lives, including ourselves. But at the time, I was very superstitious, and so anyways, long story short, I came out of being an atheist for several years, and then I am now no longer am I an atheist. I will say it's most times I'm not an atheist. At least 99% of the time, I'm at least mostly almost all not atheist. But I have never really been a big church goer since I stopped going to church about, let's say 10 years ago. And for various reasons. But mainly due to this, it's the building, right? So it's like the building itself, being in a building that's kind of like brings back kind of the way I don't want to live my life. Being raised in those types of environments, when I walk into a building like that, I say, all these triggers start going off, and all of a sudden, I don't want to be in there anymore. And so, but it could go either way. It could either have a really good experience, and I could really want to be there, in which case I got to watch out, because then I'll go crazy on the other end. You know, I want to quit my job, or you know what I'm saying, or I have a PTSD flashback and I flip out and I get angry. So it goes both ways. But what I found is it's all based on my attitude. So, you know, I could go, that's why I always said I could go to a, like, you know, we were talking about the other day, you could learn a lot about Jesus just from watching Dumb and Dumber, if you wanted to. I mean, you could find positive things in any good, funny thing you can watch. And so, but I was having trouble. I was looking, I had a great need. Actually, I was about to be homeless. That's a pretty big need, right? And,
Yeah.
And I was about to be homeless, and my wife was about to be homeless along with me, and my son was about to be homeless along with me. And I did not know what I was going to do. And it was coming down to the wire, and I mean down to the wire, I'm talking like within days, where I had no place to go and I had no place to live. And I said, I mean, and you know me, you know Alex, you know a little bit about it, and Leon, you know, I mean, if there was ever a guy that could be the poster person for bipolar, it's me. So I don't handle almost being homeless in 3 days very well. Right? I'm going to be homeless in 3 days. I don't like that. So I said, this was just a couple of years ago. This was like 3 years ago, I think. And so, but we came out here around to where we live now, and there was a little open house, a nice little house that we liked, because we'd looked at apartments here and there, and this and that, and this location and that one. And we said, man, there's nothing that just worked with us, nothing fit right. And we saw this little house, and my wife said, you know what, let's go in there and look. It's an open house. And I was like, man, I don't want to go in there. I just was down. And I didn't want to participate in anything that was going to push me forward. I was giving up, essentially. I was on the verge of giving up. I was on the verge. So we go in there, and I said, well, you know, it's nice. Everything in there was almost like what we had talked about exactly perfectly in terms of color, everything, design, layout. You know, and talking to renting, right? And I said, wow, it's really nice. So we took the little thing, we filled out the brochure, I mean the application. And then we didn't think anything of it. Went back to our regular living, knowing we only had a couple of days. And then it was that next Sunday, which was that day was a Saturday, and then that next Sunday, my wife said to me, why... It was Easter Sunday. It was Easter Sunday. And my wife said to me, why don't we go to church? And I said, because usually on Easter Sunday, I had been picking the Catholic church every Easter Sunday because it was about the only church I could handle. And I always like to go to the Catholic church because if there's something wrong with the car, I always like to go to the dealer. And, you know, we all know that the Catholic Church is the oldest organization that claims, right, to be back that far. And I always say I like to go back to the dealer, which we'll have to see if that's actually true or not, based on each person's experience. But because I'm not a Roman Catholic, I'm not this or that. You know, I go where I need. I go to wherever is serving the right gas. So this preacher gets up, the priest, and the first thing I noticed about the meeting was that he read essentially his sermon out of a book, and it lasted like 10 minutes. But I remember he talked a little bit about his own background of being an alcoholic and being in recovery, but he ended it, and I was keep in mind I was very, again, depressed and feeling like there's no hope. But they did, speaking of this, the burning of the incense and the holy water and all that, I was going to tell Alex about this, and possibly you too, Leon, because I have a cousin and a couple of cousins that attend that same actual parish, and they're a member of that community, and then also they're Catholics, but they said because when they were flinging the water around, some water got on me, and I told her, and she said, "Oh, that is considered an extra blessing because that is considered that the Holy Spirit is actually descending on you to give you a specific blessing." So I was like, "Wow, really? Well, that's great." But I felt good. But the point of the message was, and this was it. He did his whole sermon. I don't remember any of it, but here's all I remember. And then he closed the book and he dismissed. And this was it. When man says no, God says yes. And then he closed the book. And then my wife said, "Hey, let's go back to that house. They're having an open house again. Let's go back one more time and look at that house." So we went back to that open house that day after church. Remember that said that the sermon had said, when man says no, God says yes. And make a long story a little bit longer but short, we went back and the owners of the house were there again, and we talked to them a little bit more, and then they called us the next day and said, "You know what? We are going to go with you guys." And
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he said, and the thing that put us over was meeting you guys the second time. We weren't quite sure, and then we met you the second time. But I said, you know what? I do not believe if I had not, I believe that had I decided to not go to church that day, I would be having a house at this point. I would be in a different situation right now. But because
Yes,
I
things happen.
decided to go to church, and I'm not saying people have to go to church to get answers, but I went to church and I said, I'm not going to have a bad attitude. I'm going to get what I can get. And all I got, I don't remember anything about it. Only thing I remember is when man says no, God says yes. And I said, and both me and my wife said, this is directly coming from the Lord. So now on that, yeah, we took a break, but I had to preach. You know, I always have a segment where I got to preach at least a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this, hey, you know what it comes from too is because I'm not afraid nor ashamed anymore to tell anybody that I'm either a Christian or not an atheist, which I used to be ashamed of telling people that I was a Christian and that I wasn't an atheist because I was afraid that people, if I told them I was a Christian, that they would lump me in with all these other Christians, right? These crazy nut jobs. And then I was afraid that if I told them that it was truthful about me being or not being an atheist, that either community was then going to then make me their personal enemy. So then it was their job to make me go bankrupt.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just you can't tell people anything anymore without somebody getting offended. So, but you guys are different. You guys are my family. So we're going to take a break real quick. And here's I have one brother on this side. He's the co-host tonight. # Leon the Jokester.
Man, I'm enjoying the night, man.
Man, I am
enjoying
too.
Alley stages, man.
He's bringing it. I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to happen this way.
You planned for my failure. Oh, so glad to disappoint.
Was that the most interesting man in the world?
No, that's me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Because this is quite possibly the most interesting man in the world. And he's the real one, too. This is probably the one they based him on. Alex Pages.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So, listen, we're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to be coming back with our gospel hour, which, as you know, is the final hour of our show. It's the time of the show where it is finished because the gospel's finished. But we'll be back in just a second. And I'm sure these people will be back as well, and so will you. So hold on for the Please Cast. And we are back again, once again, with the Please Cast. And for the Please Cast, I could and might and am now adding, could add, am adding now, that we are here for the Please Cast and for you also. And here we have the following person that's co-hosting the Please Cast tonight, and he is hashtag Leon the Jokester.
Yes, man. I had a great time tonight.
Right.
You guys.
Well, what I'd like to say also, as we introduce the Gospel Hour, not to take all the surprise out of it, because you know this is the hour of the show where it's finished. And as you know, we've always said it, and we'll say it again. If you didn't know it, the gospel, dear friends, is finished. And so we've got also over here, we have a special guest host for the last time, because after this he's co-hosting if he decides to return. Alex Pages.
So glad to be here with you guys. I had a great time. Just a quick note, especially being that with all the things happening, especially the shooting that happened at that particular school. I think what we seem to be lacking out there, and maybe we can all look inside ourselves and try to bring out the good in ourselves, and care about people, and do something to help others. If you're in like a high school and somebody's bullying somebody, stop it, step in. Don't just keep your mouth quiet. That's the worst thing, I think, is when people don't want to get involved, and I think we all need to get involved. And I think the whole situation could be turned around if people just care, So I wish I could have done that in a funny voice, and maybe it would have made somebody laugh. But that's how I feel right now. We gotta be a little bit better with everyone. I always tell people, this is the United States of America. It's not the make America great again. It's already great. It's even greater than it was when it started. And I think it's, like I said, the United States of America, we have to be united. So let's all return to the moment after the 911 incident happened, how everyone was so strong, so close. I could just look in the eyes of other people, and we all felt that pain and the togetherness and the pride of being an American in the true sense of the word, not in the red hat wearing sense of the word. So anyway, there we go. Thanks for having me.
So, Alex, a question that I always leave the guests with at the very end of the show, I'm going to give my little shout-outs and stuff, and then I'm going to give you the last loaded question, and then after you answer, and then we're going to shoot it back to Randy. But I want to thank Randy for always blessing me with the opportunity to be on the hashtag Please Cast Show podcast. Thanks to you, Alex Pages, for coming on tonight. You were awesome, bro. Love the impression. Keep doing that. Maybe you could do one of me someday. Leon the Jokester impression. That would be exclusive. And then also, people can find me on Facebook.com/Leon.Purley. That's Purley. Go to YouTube. Check me out, Leon the Jokester. All right, so the loaded question for tonight is when it's all said and done, when the stage lights go out and the impressions have faded away, and everyone has left the venue, what type of legacy does Alex Pages want the world to know of him when it's all said and done? I mean, we could perform for the next 20, 30 years, but even Richard Pryor had to turn off the lights and move on to that next chapter in life, in eternity. So what type of legacy do you want to be remembered by for you, your family, the whole 9 yards, brother?
I think that I just want anybody who knew me to say that he was a good friend, and he was there when you needed him, and that they followed that particular belief and pass it on to other people and be
Well, I will
thank
leave it at that unless you have anything else, Alex Pages.
Well, you can find me on Facebook, comedian Alex Pages, and also find a few different videos of me on YouTube. Also, either Alex Pages or comedian Alex Pages. Yeah, you might get lucky and come across a performance I did back in 1995 when I used to have hair like Elvis Presley. And I love looking at that particular show. I'm like, give me my hair back. But yeah, thanks again for letting me be on there.
Yes, thank you so much. What a privilege and an honor. This is great. You have brought the show up to the next level, Alex. Thank you. I would only...
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, I would only add, I want to be really serious because, yeah, this is a serious time we live in, and I'm hoping that we can use comedy to help people have a better understanding and access to good works. If someone is available to do something that is good for someone else, whether that's a kind word or whether it's simply not saying anything at all, if the option that you feel is only to say something mean, I think that it would be better not to say anything. Perhaps instead of saying something mean, you might either ask a question of yourself, as I do every day. Why am I thinking about saying something mean to this person? But thank you again, Leon the Jokester. Thank you, Alex Pages, and for reminding me why we are here on the Pleasecast, and that is to help each other become better people. So based on that, we're done, I believe. I think that the next thing we should all do is retire to the privacy of our own digital realms and then see what happens until next week. What do you guys think?
That's right.
I
Great.
completely agree with your assessment of the situation, Mr. Smock.
Super. And then maybe next time I'd like to see if we can get Maxwell Smart or Don Adams, because I like him too. If we could pull him up. So for the time we have spent, thank you, and for the time that we shall plan on, we anticipate, this has been the Pleasecast, and we will see you next time. The Christian Internet Reporting.